Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Jon Gaunt broadcast podcast, whatever you want to call it. Today, we're going to talk about illegal immigration. We're going to talk about the people who are arriving at Dover. And you know what? Unlike all the mainstream politicians, I've not given up. They've all basically said, we can't stop it. Yes, we can. If there's a will, there's a way. As proved now by Donald Trump, it looks today, the breaking news is that he's got some kind of peace deal in the Ukraine. But look what he's done with the southern border in the States. He's just swamped it and he's stopping it. The migration is still there, but it's diminished massively. There has to be a will to do it. And I'm afraid you also have to be a little bit nasty, not inhumane, nasty. And I'm going to show you today in this program, in the next 20, 30 minutes, how we can stop these migrants. And if you don't think it's a problem, let me give you some very clear figures to concentrate your minds. Over 38,000 illegal migrants are in this country. Now, when I call them illegal, they are illegal because they've come without permission. I'm not making any other value judgment, but they're staying in hotels. And these hotels are costing us, the British taxpayer, a staggering £5.5 million a day. That's right, you heard me correctly, a day. It's absolutely clear that this government is not managing it correctly. Despite the promises from Sir Keir Starmer to end the asylum hotels, and of course Rishi Sunak for the Conservatives before to stop the boats. He was going to stop the boats. The cliche Starmer has is we're going to smash the gangs. Neither of them did that. Illegal migration is still continuing to surge, with over 6,000 migrants arriving via the channel in this year alone, in 2025, and we're not even at the end of March. And in total now, I think we're just under 30,000 illegals have entered the UK since Labour came to power. Now, I just want to stress something. I'm not going to just bash Labour in this. It's the whole political class. How do we solve the migrant problem? Because they've both had a go at it and they've both failed because they namby-pamby around. And I've got a simple question. If army camps and army barracks are good enough for our boys who are willing to lay down their lives and shed their blood for our great country, why aren't they good enough for illegal migrants? Why can't we put them in tents, proper food facilities, showering facilities and the rest of it? But why can't we do that? It's good enough for our boys and our troops. Why isn't it good enough for the migrants? Have you got a view? I am taking your opinions if you wish to join in. Just tap a little note up on the side. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. And of course, we're live here now on Twitter as well. So you can get me wherever you fancy. But we're going to have this proper debate. It isn't going to be a racist, oh, all migrants are coming here just for a handout. Many of these people would probably, if we had a system that worked, turn out to be quite good citizens and contribute to our country. And we will need more people in the country because of the declining birth rate. Tomorrow, Rachel Thieves, have you seen she's back in the papers again today? Now she's had free theatre tickets as well. The woman just cannot resist a freebie. She makes me sick. But tomorrow, she's going to install things which is going to affect every single person in the country. She will put in tax raises or national insurance, or she'll put up fares on transport. You watch, it's going to hit us in the pocket. And some of this money is going to pay for the illegals. I'm sorry, with the numbers where they are now, we cannot continue like this. Do you agree with me? Let's just look at those figures again. £5.5 million a day is what it's costing us to keep them in hotels. You've probably seen in the news a big hotel group have had their contract removed today. And you probably think, well, that's a start. Yeah, Stay Belvedere Hotels, they're called. They've been stripped of their contract because there's concerns about their performance and their behaviour, although the government won't say anything more than that, so we don't know what it actually means. But they manage 51 hotels across England and Wales. They house asylum seekers. Now, listen to this. They made record profits of over 50 million pounds last year alone. Now, they can't lose their contract until 2027 or the end of 2026 because of the way the contracts are written. Who is in charge of this? Basil Fawlty would make a better job than whoever is in charge of the Home Office, or not in charge of it, as it appears to be. We need somebody to get in there and get it sorted. Now, my view is simple. I don't understand why they're going into hotels. And the government are now suggesting, oh, we might be putting them into houses or bed and breakfast. That's just because it's cheaper. That's like care in the community. Do you remember when they cut and closed down the big sanitariums? What it meant was they were playing a Russian roulette with our safety. Well, I don't want them to do that. Do you? I want them to look after us, and I want us to care for the migrants. But we have to reduce, there's two things. One, you have to reduce how many are getting in the first place, which means you have to do what Trump said. And where there's a will, there's a way. How come we can suddenly find troops to go to Ukraine, nothing to do with us? And of course, now we're not going to need to do that because it looks like what's his name? Trump has actually got a deal. So if there's a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, let's use some of our guys, as Trump has done on the Mexico border, the southern border, to secure our borders. The beach at Dover is not that long. We can just go up and down, and we just blow a whistle, a bit like when I was a kid at Livingston Baths or Coventry Swimming Baths, and they'd say, get out, those of you with such and such a band on. We'd have to say no, like I've done on my little illustration here. Charity has to begin at home, and I'm sorry, we're full. That's what we have to say. Now, if there was a humanitarian crisis, that's a slightly different situation. But we can't allow this to continue. And if that means we have to build centres in France to process these people, which is the last place they were in, let's do so. Let's get a deal with France. Because also, when they're in France, have you seen the so-called jungle at Calais? They're not staying in hotels in Calais. They're staying in makeshift shelters. So I'm not suggesting doing that when they get here. I'm saying if there's not enough ex-army accommodation, they'll have to go into tents, like our lads and lasses go into when they're at war or when they're on a deployment. There's nothing wrong with that. They can go into tents. They can be looked after correctly, proper bathing facilities. We give them all the medical backup that we're still giving them at the moment, but we're going to cut the cost. But if you let the government get away with this, they're going to put them in houses next to you. And I'm not saying they're all rapists or murderers or muggers, but that's not right because we don't know who they are. They've not been vetted. So they've got to be put in a secure place. But I would suggest there's lots of alternatives to 4-star hotels, which, let me just remind myself, is costing us £5.5 million a day. Now, it's clear Starmer's failed. He said he was going to smash the gangs. He couldn't smash an avocado. We've also got a position where Rishi said he was going to stop the boats. He hasn't. All of them, because they're so woke, they're so politically correct, they don't want to be described as the nasty party. Well, what's nasty about saying we're protecting our borders? The answer is there's nothing nasty about that at all. Every country has a right to a border and a right to patrol it and protect it. Now, the next thing is you'll say, well, what about the EU? I thought we had Brexit to regain control. Well, that hasn't happened, has it? So if it means we've got to leave the Human Rights Act, we'll have to do it. But let's get a politician with a backbone, with credibility, who could put forward positive suggestions for how we solve this logjam. Because what we can't do is allow it to continue. You just can't allow this to continue. It's no good for us, the British settled community, and I think it's probably no good for the people who are trying to get in either. It's continuing to surge. 6,000 migrants just via the channel. These are the ones we know about in 2025 alone, in 3 months. In total, 30,000 illegal migrants have entered the UK since Labour came to power. Now, please don't interpret this as me having a go at Starmer. He's only just started and he has returned some people, although it was a bit of a con trick. It was a bit of smoke and mirrors. He's not returning the people who have arrived today. Anyone who arrives, we need a position where they would just say, no, sorry. And the big mistake Starmer made was he got rid of Rwanda. Now, I wasn't keen on the Rwanda scheme. I thought it was ridiculous. But maybe it would have worked as a deterrent. And on reflection, would Starmer not have been better to try it? Instead, he got rid of it with his sixth formers. And what did he replace it with? Zero. Nothing. He's replaced it with nothing. And that's a problem. We've got places offshore. I'm not suggesting the Isle of Wight, but we have got islands, haven't we, where we could send these people and they could be processed. But the idea that they get in and the message is clearly getting back to them via YouTube, etc., that as long as you get to England, you will get your food, you'll get accommodation, good accommodation, and you'll get looked after. I'm not suggesting we're giving them loads of money. We're not. That's all myth and nonsense. I'm not suggesting it's even easy for them. It's not. But we need to make it a bit more difficult. Del Boy, evening, John. What we do is send these illegals back to their own country. We tell those countries if they don't take them back, we'll stop any foreign aid to their country. Well, that could be part of it, Del Boy. Of course, one of the problems is you don't necessarily know what country they've come from. And if they don't accept them, there'll be a logjam there. But I take your point. We certainly shouldn't be given foreign aid. Well, we shouldn't be given foreign aid at the moment anyway. We're in a crisis situation. And let me just repeat to you what the title of today's show is. Charity has to begin at home. So we've got to stop foreign aid anyway. Stephen Freestone says we still give foreign aid to states with their own space missions and nuclear weapons. Yes, we do. India is a prime example of that, Steve, on YouTube. But again, that wouldn't necessarily stop it. But these are all parts. This is what we need, though, this kind of thinking, all these parts together. And we need to send back videos showing people that you don't necessarily get a 4-star hotel at I think it's £147 a day per migrant. You're not going to get that. You're going to end up in an army barracks if you're lucky. If not, you're going to be in a tent on a big field. I mean, I remember this. My cousins, their dad, my Uncle Wilf, several uncles who were in the military. We used to go down to see them in the summer holidays. Those camps were magnificent. They were huge, with loads of green spaces as well as the houses. Most of those houses are still there, but they're empty. Why can't we use them? And if they're not 100%, tough shit. At least they've got a roof over their head. Because in no way am I talking about persecuting the individual people who have made that journey and that decision to try and get to Britain. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be inhumane. But I also don't want to be a soft touch. And the problem with our establishment politicians, they are a soft touch. They're afraid that somebody will call them the nasty party because of what happened with the Tories. Do you remember when Theresa May put those vans around and they said, oh, that was a, what do they call it, a policy of aggression or something? No, it wasn't. It was saying you shouldn't be in our country. When you have surveys coming out where 1.2 million people living in London shouldn't be here, it's something you've got to address. And I say, look, the green light is there now. Not the green card, but the green light. Donald Trump is doing it with his southern border. There's a change in the air in world politics. I know there's been this cock up overnight about them involving a journalist in their war plans with Yemen, which is just pure incompetence if it's true. But today, it looks like Trump's got some kind of peace deal with Putin. Well, I want us now to follow that lead, realize who the enemy is, and the enemy, to a certain extent, is these people coming in. Not because they want to do us ill, these migrants, although there's clearly some rapists and murderers amongst them, but not the majority, obviously. But they are doing us ill because they're a strain on our resources. We cannot afford. I've just got to keep looking at this figure. When I saw this figure earlier, I couldn't believe it. £5.5 million. That's your money a day spent on illegal immigrants getting out of those little rafts in Dover. No, we can't afford it. We've got the winter fuel allowance cut. We've got pensioners being affected. We've got students affected. We're ripping off farmers. Have you seen the cost of living, how expensive it is now? I'm sorry. Charity must begin at home. And we've got problems in this country. When you go to Leamington, go to Warwick, go to Coventry, go to Birmingham, you'll see our veterans screaming and shouting in the streets. I put up a little reel thing, whatever they call them, a short video, like a minute, on Facebook. On Facebook alone, it's got 10,000 views already. And it's just me basically saying, how can it be right that we've got people screaming and shouting in the streets and are homeless? How can it be right? And then when I found out today, we're spending £5.5 million a day on people who shouldn't even be here, it just makes me even angrier. What about you? Getting some good comments coming through now, so thank you. John, afternoon. Unfortunately, Starmer doesn't have the balls to close the borders, nor did the Tories. I'm glad to see you're not making it party political. Unless someone stands up and be counted, it's never going to end. That's Steve on YouTube. Steve, you are absolutely correct. We need one politician or a couple of them, and you're not going to get it with Starmer, I don't think. You're not going to get it with Yvette Cooper. See, Starmer will be tough on you for hurty words on YouTube. It'd probably be tough on a couple of boys in, I don't know, Aldershot or Catterick, get a bit boozed up one weekend on Friday or Saturday, end up having a scrap and say something they shouldn't say. It'll be tough on them. They'll have them in the slammer. But why can't it be tough on these illegals? Because they are illegal. Even if they're fleeing persecution, they're still illegal. They haven't gone through the right channels. Now, I'm not saying, I hope you notice within this, I'm not saying within all of this, stop it. I'm also not being a ridiculous ideologue thinking we can get it to zero. Of course we can't. But what we can do is stop believing there's nothing we can do. That is the language of defeatism. If we'd done that in the Second World War, when Hitler was just about to invade, I always think of the beginning of Dad's Army. Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler? And there's all those Nazi flags, and they're all coming through Europe. You know the bit I'm talking about? And then suddenly the song changes, and we stop him, right? I know it's a farce. I know it's a joke. But that's basically what we did. We didn't just say, okay, Adolf, it's all yours. We didn't. We fought them on the beaches, like Winston Churchill said. We fought back. We fought for democracy. We fought for a land fit for heroes. We fought for a place where there'd be free speech. Look at what we've got. Do you see where I'm coming from? So we've got to, as a country, as a class, and the politicians, if they can't do it, we've got to get rid of them. Now, if reform would stop, I mean, that's today, there's been this pathetic thing about the King's Council had said something about Lowe and yeah, he's this and he's that. Listen, I don't care what Lowe's been doing, unless he's been raping women, obviously. What I'm saying is, can you not get together for the good of the country, Nigel and Rupert and the rest of you, Ben Habib, and put the country first? Or are you going to keep squabbling while Rome burns? They're at the gates. They're inside the gates. We don't even know how many of these people might be of a terrorist mind. We have had violent incidents, haven't we? And again, I've got to state, I'm not saying everyone who's coming in is like that, because they're not, clearly. But we've got to sort it out. And if that means we've got to threaten France a little bit, because clearly they're going, whoa, on you go, come this way to Calais. They're letting them get in the boats. I was thinking about this. I know that's a massive stretch of coastline. But if we put our boys in there with the French, could we not stop them? Could we then not come to a deal with France? Because, remind me, didn't we give France millions and millions of pounds to sort this out for us? Well, let's sort it out with them. We've got to stop them leaving in the first place. But the PR exercise is to show them they won't be welcome. Then if they do come, they'd get looked after. They get put in an army tent. They'd get 3 meals a day. But they ain't going to get 4-star luxury with a nice hot shower with squeezy soap. No, they're not. They're not going to get that. And that's got to stop today, well, more or less. So, and this company making £50 million last year. It's funny because I only said to Lisa the other day, I wonder how much these hotels are making. I've got a friend who's got a hotel. He was offered to do it, and he said no. He said, I would have no business afterwards. I'd be quids in for a few years. But then what would the hotel look like? Where would I be? My sister-in-law, where she got married, it's a beautiful hotel. Really upmarket, yeah? It's closed. All the signs, this is probably happening where you live as well. All the signs have been taken down. It's a country hotel. It's kind of disappeared. It's a bit like 1984. And it's full of migrants. Now, they need somewhere to go because our government is too, and Starmer and Rishi and the Tories, they're too lily-livered to say, you come, you're going in a tent. Now, these aren't tents like we know tents, are they? They're tents with proper beds inside and everything, and kitchens and bathrooms and all the rest of it. I keep coming back to this. If it's good enough for our boys, it's good enough for a migrant. Let's take some more views. Trump threatened South American countries to accept illegals back or aid would stop. It has worked. We have to try something. I think you're right. I'm not against that idea, Del. I'm saying it's part of a strategy. It's all going to be part of a strategy. Paul Smith Fox on Twitter or X says, how stupid does two-tier Keir think we are when he says he'll solve the housing crisis? We don't have a housing crisis. We have an immigration crisis. Well, I agree with a lot of that, Paul, although I think we've got both. I think there is a housing crisis. I don't think there are enough houses for the people who are already here, right? But there certainly is no point in building all these new homes because who's going to get them? And again, I'm not being a racist. Those people, the migrants will get them first because their need will be greater than yours. It is the old cliche of, oh, I've been on the council list for ages, but so-and-so's just arrived and they've got 15 kids by 25 different fathers. You know what I'm saying? So when Angelo Reyna brags about 1.5 million houses and concreting over the green spaces of our great country, that's what she's talking about, effectively. She's too thick to realise it. Or maybe she thinks we're too thick to realise it. I don't want to be inhumane. I want these people to be looked after. And I tell you what, if they've got a skill, if we find out some of these people are brain surgeons and rocket scientists and all the rest of it that we're told, get them working. This blanket ban that we've got, this blanket ban, nobody can work. That's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. We need some people who have got the right skills. I'm going to be even more controversial after this, Sir. We even need some people who haven't got very high skills. Because post-Brexit, because of all the scare stories, lots of our European friends went home. I've got friends in catering and in hospitality and in pubs, including my daughter. They're desperate for people. They're desperate for people who want to work in the service industry. Now, that's because a lot of our lazy sods won't do it. So, again, we've got to square that circle within this whole new way of looking at things. But there must be some people who've got skills or experience we could use now. So a blanket ban saying nobody can work, I just think is wrong. Because then you've just got them all hanging around outside the places and all the other associated problems. I don't think everybody should be allowed to work. And I don't think everybody, therefore, if they do start working, it increases their chances of staying. No. Be a bit like the fruit pickers. You bring the fruit pickers in and they have to go home afterwards. It should be that kind of idea. But the idea of this blanket ban, obviously dreamt up by some idiot who hasn't even started shaving yet. I don't know what her name is. But that's what's happened with all these political advisors who don't live in the real world. This is an interesting interview from Yusuf about the illegal immigration. There's no point in me sending things when I'm on air. So how can I see that? He says the Uni Party can stop the boat, but they don't want to. There's no political will. Well, I'd agree with you there, Thistle. That's really what I'm trying to get at. I believe the Tories over 14 years built up the backlog of people so that they had the bogeyman, the illegal immigrant, right, to blame problems on, so that working class people would think it's other working class people that are the problem, not the knobs, for example, who are making £50 million from their hotel chain. They are they deal with a quarter, so they've got a quarter of the migrant market. How sick is that? They're trading in human misery. But meanwhile, we're worried about Abdul down the road because he did something or whatever. Not because he did a crime, but because we don't like the look of him. Because we've been told they're the bogeyman. You see where I'm being balanced within this argument? They're ripping us off. And as per usual, the upper class, the establishment, whatever you want to call them, love to set the working man and woman against each other. They've done it for years. They are the root of racism. You know, when they talk about, white working class boys being racist, no, it doesn't come from the working class. Because if you ever worked in a factory or you met people, there's banter, of course there is. And I'm not saying there hasn't been racism, of course there was. But most people who are working, what did you call them? Working people, working class people, they just want to earn their money and they want to get on and they want to work and get on with their fellow man and woman. Yes, there was some ridiculous, no dogs, no blacks, no Irish, all that stuff. Yes, horrid. But we're well past all that now, aren't we? I think we are. But the people who love to stir it up, like the people who said, these riots in Southport, it's the far right and they're getting the train, they're having away days to come and cause trouble around the country. It turns out all of that was bullshit. Why? To divide and rule and conquer us. That's what's going on. That's why when people say, don't like a Muslim, don't like Muslims, you say, what, all of them? All of them? What about so-and-so? What about so-and-so in the curry house? Oh, he's all right. Oh, so he's okay, is he? What about the bloke who's going to be driving the Uber later? The nice Uber driver, the one we like, got a clean car, him. Oh, he's all right. And it goes on like that. That's why racism is so dense and so thick, and they use it against us. I'm not saying everyone should come in. Quite the opposite. I'm saying we need to control it. Well-controlled, managed immigration in our great country has been a good thing. This is why I do not agree, and I put it on the record now, with Rupert Lowe, who talks about mass deportations. I don't agree with that. I think we should find out who should be here and who shouldn't, and have they got a value to us, and then move from that position. But the idea that just that your name's Abdul means you're going home, but if your name's Bruce, you probably won't. I don't want to be part of that. I really don't want to be part of that. That's a return to the bad old days. No, no, no. Now that's going to upset some people, I'm sure. Jedi, has anyone come up with the number of houses we require? I hear we need more houses, but never hear the number. I'll never give you a number of stuff like that, Jed. But thanks for your point. I know what you're saying. UK taxpayers' cash should stay here. You fix your own roof first before helping others. Well, isn't that what I'm saying? If there's a time limit for a person that's here waiting to be processed before they just qualify, is it 5 years? And if so, have we got a time bomb coming down the road? Well, there is and there isn't once the process happens. But there's no reason for why people are waiting 5 years. I was in business with a guy who's a human rights lawyer. Ooh, yeah, boo, hiss. What a nice guy. And the guys he worked with are nice guys. They were just trying to do a good job. The bottom line is a lot of these graduates who are coming out of law school, they could be used to reduce the immigration queue as quickly as possible. And that's what we should be doing. Because what's going to happen, Jed, it doesn't matter whether it's official or not. It's already been suggested before by people like Boris Johnson. There's 90-odd thousand people. They'll probably just turn around and say, oh, we can't cope with all them. Tell you what, you can all stay. But no more. No more. I don't want that, Jed. I want it to be fair and equitable, and I want people to have a chance. And if they can stay in our country and they've got something to contribute, let them. That's why I'm saying this thing about working. This blanket ban on working is ludicrous because they're working anyway. Have you never run over one of those guys on a Deliveroo bike? You know, they've got more power between their legs than Evel Knievel ever had when he was jumping the Grand Canyon. It's an absolute joke. They're working anyway in the black economy. So we just need to be logical about this. We also need to be logical to think, well, somebody who can get themselves across the channel or maybe halfway around the world to come and live here, they might, hey, guess what? They might have something to offer. See, I don't believe it's an Islamist or an Islamic takeover either. I'm not into that. It will be if we don't talk about it and we don't be fair about it. That's where I'm coming from. I'm saying, let's look at it with fresh eyes. So first of all, you secure your borders, so less get here. Then you deal with the people who are here, and I've suggested some ways of doing that already. And we could use a hell of a lot of law graduates for sorting out who can stay and who can't and finding out where they're from. And this whole nonsense of not checking their medical records. You're not allowed to inspect them. I'm sorry. We've got to. And if they have got TB, AIDS, HIV, something out. Just don't even entertain it. Isolation, ward, and then out. We can't allow these diseases that we got rid of to come back in. You've got to protect your own people. That's not fascist. That's not nasty. Just plain common sense. John, have you ever thought about standing for Parliament? We need more common sense in politics, and the time is now. Listen, I can't get a job in radio saying this, let alone in Parliament, but thank you for your compliment. The stretch of coastline secure isn't that far. Dover to just past Folkestone. Barbed wire walls, dig up possible landing areas, make it impossible to land. Yeah, the only problem then, of course, Chopper, is how do they... You can't just let them get to more or less to the shore and then say, sorry, you're going to have to stay on the boat, especially if the boat starts to sink. I mean, that's where Katie Hopkins went too far in that Sun column. They're not cockroaches. They're not leeches. They're human beings. And we are a fantastic country. All I'm saying is we can't take everyone in. We can protect our coastline there. I mean, I was just thinking now, I said about Dad's Army earlier. You know, when you go to places like Sperm Point up north, and you know where the Withering-Sea, you know where that tanker, the Russian tanker, that was a bit peculiar, wasn't it? We'll talk about that another day. The Russian tanker skipper and all that. Well, a lot of those places have still got the sea defences there. So it's not beyond the wit and wisdom. We've done it before. We weren't going to let the Nazis just jump off a boat, were we, in the shallows and walk into Withering-Sea, then Bridlington, Scarborough, and then, show you my knowledge now, and then Hull. I would definitely never have allowed them on the Golden Sands of Filey. Oh, I love Filey. I just would not have allowed it. But you see where I'm coming from? We can protect our coastline. Thistle says, Jon Gaunt for Prime Minister. Yeah, all right then. I can't afford, well, I used to say I can't afford the wage cut. I could afford it. I could do it at the moment for 2 bob and a conker, and that's skint, I tell you. Don't forget, if you want to help me out, buy me a coffee. www.buymeacoffee.com/Jon Gaunt. Right, I just want to finish off just with a bit of a reminder of whatever else we've got here. See, and notice today, I've not got angry about it. Getting angry about this situation doesn't help, because then that anger normally gets directed on the individual person who's trying to get into the country. I don't think that's the way forward. I think we should be angry with the establishment class. Them up there, as Frankie Howard would say. They're the ones who are causing the problem, not the individuals who are just trying to better their life. £5.5 million a day. 38,000 migrants at this moment are housed in hotels across the country. 38,000. That's before you think of the knock-on effect. All those catering staff, all the wedding staff, the photographers, the bands who can't perform anymore because the hotels now are full of migrants and they don't have as many staff. This is a failure of the entire political class, especially after Brexit. We voted to regain control of our borders, and they've failed us. The EU must be laughing their duck off at us. Why can't our politicians fix the problem? It's simple. Tougher deterrents. And then solutions to end hotel accommodations, because they're draining public funds. Money that we haven't got. You know, tomorrow there's talk that she might even start means testing the pension. I just remind her, Rachel Thieves, the pension is not a benefit. We've all contributed. It's ours. You can't steal that. You steal that, there'll be a revolution, in my opinion. We need tougher deterrents. We need to end the hotel accommodations, and we need to end that more or less overnight. You see, when our army goes to war, how quickly they can build tent cities. So are you telling me we couldn't get all those tents up over a weekend? Places like Catterick and old airfields. Marsden, what's that place? Marston, where they wanted to open a new London airport. There's loads of places. Let's get it sorted. Are you with me or are you against me? And if they don't want to do it, why don't they want to do it? Could I humbly suggest it's because they, the people in power, that's the multinational companies, the World Economic Forum, whatever you want to call them, the politicians, the ones who are already sorted, they don't want to sort it out for us. They want us to fear the new, fear the unknown, fear the immigrant. Don't play their game. The enemy is within, and it's not new arrivals who wear sandals necessarily. It's not. It's the people in power, the people who haven't addressed this. Jackie Ward, she can be the last one today. I've had enough of this country and all the wokeness. If I wasn't so broke, I'd leave. I feel the UK is the laughing stock of the world. Well, yes, Jackie, but if we leave, we give away our country. We give away our country. Again, not to the new arrivals, really, but to those people who are managing this and engineering this. None of this is an accident. You don't get to 55 million quid. What was it again? 55 million a day, do you? You don't get to that kind of bread by accident. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's design. What was it again? Let me just check. 5.5 million a day. That's design. And it's clear what's happening. It's absolutely clear. And they'll pontificate about it and they'll do nothing. There was an emergency question in the House today about this hotel firm getting the bullet. There really needs to be a question about why have they earned so much money? I don't understand it. Why are they charging 147 quid a night? I mean, I wouldn't pay 147 quid a night to stay in a Hilton 3-star or 4-star, would you? I wouldn't pay that. So why are we paying it for a migrant to stay there? They'd have cut everything to the bone. Like I said before, they haven't really got the bars and the restaurants open. It isn't really the hotel experience, is it? It's a joke. They're taking the PISS out of us. I'm going. I'll be back tomorrow because we've got to speak about this spring statement that she's going to issue. What's this? Hanlon's razor don't attribute to malice, that which is explained by stupidity. Oh, yeah, I understand. They surely can't be that stupid, so it must be done through malice, says Steve Palmer. That's what I'm getting at, Steve. It's deliberate. It's deliberate. If you're talking about the establishment, it's deliberate. They're the ones taking our country away. All right, I've had enough. If you have got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them. Thanks for watching. If you're watching on repeat or listening on the podcast, that's great as well. Thank you. I'm sorry I did this one at 5. There were other things I had to get sorted today. I'll try and do one tomorrow, maybe 6-ish, but we'll see where we are. So thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling everyone about it. Thanks for retweeting it. And thanks for your donations as well. Oh, and subscribe for free to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to build that up. It all helps. That's it then. Got kids. Give me a kiss. Give me a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them. See you later.